Abandoned Roblox games. There's a ton of Roblox games with millions of visits, but now they've all been abandoned with nobody playing them, left to be forgotten. With popular games such as Shaakras Zombie Defense and Cart Ride into a Toilet, I'm going to be taking a look at abandoned Roblox games to see what made them so popular and why they were abandoned in the first place. But what classifies a game as dead? No updates, no community, no players? Yeah, definitely the no players part. First up is Design It. This game has over 243 million visits, which is crazy, but it only had 14 active players, which is even more wild. Now the idea of this game is that you can design any outfit, and it's pretty much a character creation menu. Then players vote on their favourite, usually ending in some pretty biased results. People love this mainly just for the joke characters that you could make. Dropping in, the music already was super nostalgic. You can choose one of 4 different body types if you want to be super jacked or some skinny legend, but unfortunately you can't be fat though. There's hats, shirts, pants, morphs, clothes and bodies, but here's the catch, you only have a set budget and each piece of these will actually cost you, so you need to assemble an outfit within the budget and also before the timer runs out. Instead of doing something dumb the first time, I actually decided to just make a formal business suit. I figured if I looked smart, I'd probably win it, like some rich banker or Wall Street guy. So I was ready with my flicked up gelled hair and dashing suit. Apparently last round some disco dude won. The only thing you can really do whilst you wait though is just kick around a football. I was pretty confident I'd won here as everyone else looked pretty tragic, although some dude literally cloned my outfit 1 for 1, but he used the old Roblox look. So I did vote for him of course. And what do you know? Old Sour Soup Sailor took first place, somehow after just literally copying me, and I didn't even get second or third. What a joke. Anyways, it's suffice to say Design It sucks for this reason alone. You can probably see I wasn't happy from the chat before rage quitting, but we'll forget that happened. Next up, the Plaza, Nostalgic Edition, whatever that means. Anyways, it has 124 million visits with 9 players. Anyways, this one was probably one of the ones I played for the longest. It's kind of like a social hangout spot next to some airport. Of course, it's kind of pay to win too, as with all other Roblox games. You can buy these Plaza points, don't know what they do. You start in the subway and you can catch the tram in the underground, which is a shortcut to the other station, which takes you to a bunch of shops, the first being the Plaza decor store. Of course, you need to buy an apartment first though to buy furniture, which kind of reminded me of Habbo Hotel. You can buy fireplaces, beds and the whole 9 yards. Nick's Hardware is also another store where you can buy a whole bunch of paints and materials to colour and shade the inside walls of your place, something which was lacking in most people's places, which you'll see later. Dan's Electronics is kind of like a poor man's Apple store. It's run by some shady dude with a permanent wink on his face, probably not even called Dan. His shop sucks, well apart from the model train set, that was kind of cool. And there's also a pet shop where you can get a Doge or kitty. Now I started with about 6k, so spending 3k alone on a cat really wasn't on the top of my priority list, but they do look pretty cool I guess. Also there was a car dealership and some of these cars were pretty wild, like some futuristic 2-seater space car which really looked ahead of its time, and some golf caddy which was cheaper. Unfortunately though, you can't just steal them and drive off with them, but I had a good look inside the limo's interior. That weird car though seemed like some kind of donator only vehicle because it had some special currency that you needed to buy it, and the rest just seemed too expensive. The Plaza is absolutely massive though. There's some cafe called Glow, which is pretty disappointing. The pool spot though is pretty cool, although it's pitch black and abandoned. It kind of reminds me of the COD 4 meme, 50,000 people used to live here but now it's a ghost town. And it really does look like that abandoned pool place in Pripyat from COD 4. Anyways, I went for a paddle, I got addicted to the backstroke swimming animations, and apparently you can just walk vertically up the water slide though with no resistance and just do some parkour up on the ceiling. There's no lifeguards to help you if you fall though, since there's no players on the server. And I also discovered there's some secret passageway under the pool which lets you go through a tunnel and then you just end up in the side of a pond above. Next I decided to party inside the city's hottest spot, which is called Da Club. Someone's just been listening to too much 50 Cent again I guess. And yet again there's not much of a party when there's no other people, and plus the music player was also playing no music and there's no option to add or play any new songs either. Tough crowd. The lights are pretty cool though, I imagine it was kind of cool back in the day. Then there's some unnamed red building which actually ended up being the arcade. This one though was actually pretty cool. You can play card games like Plaza Jack versus Bots, as well as spinning the slot machines, which surprisingly I actually won a few times and it didn't really seem too rigged. And they also have a spin the wheel kind of thing, which is just like you see in GTA Online. Apparently I won a piano from it. For some reason the lemons always win on the slots here too, which makes no sense. The games theatre is actually really cool. I feel like this could have been inspired by Gmod Tower, which was a really popular mode on Gmod back in the day, which had a similar thing. And there's mini games here like Plaza carts, which I think is kind of like Mario Kart, but you can't actually play it. It just crashes your game with an error, so you have to leave and then rejoin. Anyway, after respawning, it turns out the train station that you spawn in below is actually below the tower condos, which is a set of luxury apartments, which is where you buy a place. And this is where the other people on the server actually were. So I took the elevator up to find a few people, including some weird decrepit and deformed black alien dude. And I decided to buy an apartment off Josh on floor 2. Apparently nobody locks their door though, because I just walked straight into some other person's place, which was nicely decorated, although it had no paint, and it looked like some unfinished IKEA exhibit. But I have to say it had a great view, although unfortunately there were invisible walls blocking me from jumping off. Also, the alien was being really creepy before it then killed itself, so I decided to walk away and just get on out of there. I still can't tell if it was an NPC or a player, but I didn't really want to find out either or engage with it. My apartment. When you join, you can customize and paint it, set guest permissions and the likes. I decided to live life on the edge, literally, putting my bed on the balcony along with some bendy chairs, some box shelves, light fixtures and the likes. Although I hadn't bought any paint yet, so I had that same boring paint colour that everyone else seemed to have on the server. Galleons seems to have met the same fate too, but this one had 0 players. Yikes. After being killed by the powers that be when I spawned, I was thrust onto some kind of cannon ship on the red team with some other dude called Rocky on the blue team. Apparently someone actually did join in the end. The cannons are pretty cool, and you also spawn with some treasure and a sword, I guess for boarding other ships. And the steering system though for the boats is pretty scuffed in this game, and it really reminds me of old school Roblox where you kind of need to use some kind of pilot weapon or drive tool along with left click and some keybinds which barely work. And this is how you used to have to drive every vehicle in this game. It took like 50 hours alone to actually just spin my ship round into a good position where I could be in range, whilst the other dude just had no shame and just fired at the hull of my boat from behind. Swiftly dodging his attacks, I advanced. Now when I began taking direct hits, things started to escalate, so I also manned the cannons too, desperately attempting to fire back at his ship. Although the physics system seems to be favoured based on the specific segment that you actually fire at, and he was pretty smart as he just blown down the area my cannon was on, whilst I tried to start targeting the bottom of his hull. I felt like I'd made a better effort to sink him by destroying the back of his boat, although it was no use as he just blasted me straight into the sea. And of course, as is the trend in this video, I did rage quit. Now, Prison Life is your typical prison roleplay or prison escape game. You can choose guard or prisoner depending on what you want to play. Now, this game actually isn't as dead as the others. In comparison to its height, sure, but it still had 2k players on when I joined. As with all these modes, the prisoners just sit in 4 walls and just do nothing, while the guards have all the fun on some kind of ego trip, shooting prisoners randomly or just trolling around. All you can really do on this mode as a prisoner is just wander around the cafeteria in the midst of random gunfire that you can hear. So of course, naturally, I decided to choose to be a corrupt prison guard and switch teams. Somehow the prisoners broke into the surveillance room in the spawn, so I got myself a shotgun and some gear in the armory. You can see cameras around the buildings to spy on prisoners, and sometimes you might even see the guards just spraying them down out of boredom, which is exactly what I did with a shotgun in first person mode. But apparently you do get jailed and arrested if you keep doing this, which is good I guess to stop people from just ruining the game. Although I don't like how people can just sit on your head on this mode either, it's kinda creepy. Cruise Ship Tycoon. If you want a holiday out into the great beyond, perhaps this is for you. There's about 170 to 180 players give or take online on it too, which isn't really too bad. The music is funky, but I did skip the tutorial though, which would prove to be a big mistake later. On here you can build your own ship, which is actually really cool. You use a bunch of modular pieces and elements to construct the interior, although it's really easy to mess up. I'll just give a time lapse of sorts here to show you what I did so it doesn't take forever, but the main problem was placing elements too large for the width of my ship's hallways or rooms that didn't have doors, so I ended up in placing things inside of each other, which didn't really make for a good test experience when I got around to walking around in the character mode. You can also change your ship's name, so I just called it Epic Industries, manned by my crew, the Epic Gamers. You can also set new routes, put it on autopilot mode and set up the docking of your ship, and even hire employees for cash. And I present to you my very scuffed ship. Here, let me give you a tour. The city in the distance looks super cool, simple but sweet, although you'll be unfortunately disappointed that if you do try to venture into it, you can't, because there's an invisible wall blocking you from reaching El Dorado. So you can't actually go to explore it, which is a shame because it actually really reminds me of San Fierro from GTA San Andreas. It's the same for the weird building on the dock which is opposite your ship. You can't even go inside that either. Since this channel is mostly grown on Minecraft content, I had to show you Mining Simulator, which a lot of people happen to love too. In this game, which kind of feels like a Minecraft survival server with minigames, you have to buy a pickaxe and then get quests, usually to mine a certain amount of a block, starting with gathering dirt blocks underground with the most basic pickaxe. You can then sell your dirt for some coins to an NPC. It felt like I dived deep down on a journey to the center of the earth to get to the stone though, but luckily you can just press a big blue button to teleport back to the surface. After getting stone, you can go upgrade your backpack so that you can hold more mined blocks, as well as a nice stone pickaxe upgrade so you can make some headway. This game does get a little repetitive though, but I can see why people liked it. It's kind of brain rot, but it is a little bit fun, I guess. This one's from my childhood. Shaakras Zombie Defense, which sadly has 0 players now, and perhaps I'm also looking back at this with nostalgia goggles because it probably isn't as good as I thought it was. On this one though, you spawn in some bunker near a volcano. The map has a few of these bunkers at each of the corners with a weapon shop where you can buy guns. Unfortunately though, a whole bunch of the chat commands to buy those weapons are now broken in the new Roblox. This is actually a Tycoon however, because you actually need to buy a base and use money from slain zombies to build out its defences. You spawn with just a pistol, which is also broken since the models no longer work, and the sounds are super loud. The zombies in this mode are relentless though, and since it's hard to build the base out, you usually just end up getting swarmed by them even before you can build any windows. Fortunately though, you don't lose progress when you die, but if you do get hit once, you start turning into a zombie and then you just eventually bleed out from the infection. So it's very easy to die on this mode, which as you can see just ends up happening again and again. The volcano in the middle though is the source of this infection, and it's really not a good idea at all to go to it as tons of zombies just pour out of it endlessly and stalk you to the ends of the earth. And I seem to remember in the original version there ends up being a huge big hulking boss zombie, but I couldn't find it this time, so maybe that got removed or maybe it was from a different mode or I was just dreaming it. One of the most nostalgic maps, now also with 0 players, is Cart Ride into a Toilet. This one is slightly glitchy. It involves you boarding a minecart and going through a bathroom on an epic journey to inside a toilet, getting sprinkled on by a shower, riding past poop, and generally just being scarred for life as you go along. I'm not sure why a house has a full-on minecart rail all the way through it though, but I won't ask. Also, the carts are pretty much bugged out, so half the time you'll derail and just end up crashing off the rails and have to restart completely, which is all entirely up to the game and if it wants to troll you and screw you over with its physics or not. After leaving the bedroom, you ride down into some air vent which has some questionable toxic waste leaking into it for some reason, taking you into some slimy water toilet room with some Ghostbuster ghost looking slime ball monster in the middle. That was a mouthful. Taunting you that you're nearly there, which is clearly a lie. Now after leaving the vent, you go back into a copy pasture of the first room and some more poop, although it's all floating in the air, closing in on the toilet destination. Then alas, you see the exit, which rides you 1,000 feet up into the sky on an endless death ride into the final destination itself, the ultimate toilet. You wonder what's inside the poop water down below, although yet again it seemed to glitch for me and my cart just did a front barrel roll and just fell off the toilet bowl completely. Although when you reach this point it's kind of a checkpoint, so you just teleport back up. And there's one of those old school Roblox VIP rewards rooms at the end too, where you can pick up bouncy pogo sticks and element paths like lava and ice paths, so you can just fly around and create platforms so you don't fall back down, which honestly actually made it so much more fun. And let me distract myself from the weird toilet stalking eyes. And also, let me say that in fact there's nothing inside the toilet below or in the poop water unfortunately, which kind of ruins the whole charm of the map. Prison Classic by Jorky was another childhood favourite of mine which I added to the list. This is more of a prison escape game than a roleplay server, but it has these cool clean buttons and sliding doors, which is so nostalgic. I miss the days where this had a whole bunch of players on in old school Roblox. The idea is just to be a cop to prevent prisoners escaping, or to escape as a prisoner, which lets you then become a robber at the end of the map to then help break out the existing prisoners. A simple but cool system. Now usually all the doors are locked, but since nobody was on, it was pretty easy to just break straight into the guard room, take a pistol and walk straight out the doors, and go directly to the elevator instantly, which is pretty cool. Although it ended up going wonky and capsizing when I reached the top. The top takes you to Robloxia in that classic default Roblox house, and you can get a gun and become a robber. Now if you zoom out, you can see just how simple and small this map really is, and of course see the elevator glitching for all its glory. Another of my old favourites was Tony's Team Fortress 2, which is also now very much dead. This one was one of the oldest TF2 remakes in Roblox, and you can really tell from the dated weaponry and the elements it has. It mirrors that whole blocky old Roblox style, which you just don't really see as much nowadays. But the remake of its 2-fort map is surprisingly accurate, and it still kind of holds up in a classic sense. And of course you can go to the intelligence room, pick a class at spawn, and mess with different weapons. Although I must have been multiple classes at this point, as I was somehow carrying a demo man axe with a soldier's rocket launcher and a shotgun. Don't know how that works, but it makes it for more fun, right? The centre of the map is super cool too, near the bridge, although for some reason there's some automatic firing rocket from some invisible NPC that just fires across the map, which kind of makes it seem like a ghost is playing with you, which is spooky, especially since it's nearly Halloween at the time of making this. All in all, this map is super cool, although you can walk in the enemy spawn room, which isn't very accurate. I don't remember that being possible in TF2, but this is Roblox we're talking about, right? Which old Roblox games did you guys used to play? And did you play any of these that I covered or have any memories from them? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this one. Also, watch this video next.